You know, when you explore these topics and you connect them to all the different dots we're connecting them to and saying, okay, now take this oversimplified, dumbed down version of history and let's just throw it out. Mm-hmm. Because there's something that's much richer, much more interesting, much more complex, and really pretty fascinating going on. You know, it's got Absolutely. Some serial killers, but it's got some great people too.
Yeah, one of the main points too is why have we been and why are we still fed this other version? Why does somebody keep pushing the gray ET, reverse engineer the Roswell crash, the German flying saucer thing? Well, it's because it very conveniently and easily covers these historical threads like I and others have been pulling. They don't want us to look at Charles Delshall. They don't want us to look at NIMSA. They don't want us to look at the airship mystery.
Well, they don't want us to look close to home where our actions can have real change.
Exactly.
Right. Okay, so if you were going to say, let's start with where you've left us with Empire of the Wheel and the Airships mystery, and we were going to develop that thread up through the Nazis and now the Breakaway Civilization and what's going on in the national security infrastructure, what would bridge that would get us from where you've left us and take us into the Breakaway Civilization today? How do we follow the thread of the true story of flight from the Sonora Air Club through today?
Well, I think, as you said, as laid out in the books I've done so far, we follow that thread. Basically, it runs through very human organizations and societies of the philosopher-scientists who were looking at these, ancient stories of flying machines, and they were adept with chemistry, they were adept with metallurgy, they were adept with all the emerging technologies that they needed, and they had the audacity to apply these ideas. Okay. And of course, when you look at this, you see that thread dating back in human history. It's there to see. And all leading up through both this German thread that we know and the other thread, the American thread. And of course, you had the French and the Italians fooling with flight and stuff too. And the French is an interesting angle that comes up in my next book, which we'll talk about another time, I'm sure. But it leads to, as you said, World War II. Okay. Right. Now, how do we connect from World War II to today? I discovered that for me, it was ultimately very disturbing. I had started to do the research to do a book on this very thing. And I was turned on to one particular historical source that lays out in detail exactly how something was done, something that intellectually I was aware of and, had heard of, but I had never seen the roadmap laid out like this particular book did. And what it, in a nutshell, convinced me was that Operation Paperclip was a planned institutional invasion of the United States by the Nazi structure. Okay, they knew that Germany was going to lose the war, and using a system that they had used for centuries, dating back to the old Junkers, who used the Teutonic Knights and then eventually destroyed them. They were the originators of the Prussian culture, and they did this through the centuries all the way up to the 20th century. They created the Nazi culture in Germany. They used Germany, and when they had used Germany and Germany was going to fall, they set their sights on the United States. And through Operation Paperclip, I'm convinced it literally was, I don't know if you'd use the word coup, but it was an invasion, a takeover. And they fully intended to transplant the model of the military-industrial complex and all the nefarious things you see and you can point to between World War II and today.
Well, Walter, think about it. Do you think the title Department of Homeland Security is very subtle?
No, not at all.